Konnichiwa minasan, o genki desu ka? Welcome to the intermediate course of my channel. Let's learn Japanese with Eric. In this lesson, we'll learn how to express decisions that we've made. I've decided to do this or that, and decisions others have made for us. It's been decided that, so on and so forth. Yoroshii desu ka? Hajimemashou. In this lesson, you'll learn how to express I decide to do nantoka nantoka using the conjugation ru koto ni suru, where ru is the dictionary form of the verb. You'll also learn to say it will be decided that nantoka nantoka to express what other people have decided for you, using the conjugation ru koto ni naru, where again ru is the dictionary form of the verb. Let's look at the formula for these conjugations closely. In ru koto ni suru, the ru part is actually a verb clause telling what it is you decide to do, which is nominalized by koto, converting the whole verb clause before it into a noun clause. You can review nominalization in lesson 44. Then ni suru means that you will do what is expressed in the verb clause. So ru koto ni suru literally means I will do into, but the normal translation is I will decide to do. Ru koto ni naru follows the same principle, with koto nominalizing the verb clause before it, but with a formula ending in ni naru. Naru is a verb that means to become. Ru koto ni naru literally means it will become into, but translates into it will be decided to do. These two structures are non-negotiable. Koto ni suru, I decide to do. Koto ni naru, it will be decided to do. At this point, I assume you already know basic verb conjugation and how to use Japanese particles within sentences. Otherwise, you can review basic verb conjugations in lessons 26 to 30 and Japanese particles in lessons 22 to 24. Although conventionally the formulas are given in the non-past tense, ru koto ni suru, ru koto ni naru, these formulas are often used in the past tense. After all, you express decisions that have already been made, so people often use them in the past tense. I decided to do this, ru koto ni shita, or ru koto ni shimashita. It's been decided that, ru koto ni natta, or ru koto ni narimashita. Let's look at ru koto ni suru closely first. I decide to do. The subject or sentence topic is typically the speaker. The speaker says, I will do this or I will do that. It indicates the speaker's will to do something. The ru or verb part only uses a controllable verb. For example, eat, drink, walk, come, or go. After all, it is you who will do the action. Now, ru koto ni suru has 4 variations. The first is, I decide to do, or ru koto ni suru, which is the original formula. Then we have, I decide not to do, which is nai koto ni suru. The verb in the subordinate clause is what's conjugated to the nai form, and not the suru at the end. Next is, I decided as a rule to do nantoka nantoka. Ru koto ni shite-iru. The suru at the end is conjugated to the progressive form shite-iru to indicate these are ongoing changes. You can review the progressive tense in lesson 33. And the last one is I decided as a rule not to do. Nai koto ni shite-iru. And once again, it's the verb in the subordinate clause that's conjugated to the nai form, and the ending is shite-iru in the progressive tense. Numbers 3 and 4, deciding to do things as a rule, express personal resolutions, forming new habits or change in routines, deciding to do or not to do something on a continuous basis. Now let's take a closer look at the second formula, ru koto ni naru. It's been decided that. In this construction, the decision is made by somebody else who isn't specified in the sentence. The speaker or subject ostensibly has no control over the situation, but even if they did, they still use the conjugation to project humility. Japanese people do this a lot when firing a subordinate. Oh, it's been decided that you've been let go. Also, when asking a subordinate to do something unpleasant. This construction deflects blame. It's indirect. Or if the change is something really good, it mitigates envy. So you don't appear to be boasting when you say, oh, I'm moving into $1 million house. It sounds better to say, oh, it's been decided that we'll move into $1 million house. Also, with this conjugation, the subject can be the speaker or somebody else. Like koto ni suru, koto ni naru also has 4 variations. First is the formula itself. It'll be decided to do. Ru koto ni naru. Then, it'll be decided not to do. Nai koto ni naru. Again, we conjugate the verb in the subordinate clause into the nai form and not the verb naru at the end. Next, it's been decided as a rule to do. Ru koto ni natte-iru. The verb in the end, naru, changes into the progressive form natte-iru or natteimasu. And the last one is, it's been decided as a rule not to do. Nai koto ni natte-iru. Again, the verb before koto is what's conjugated into the nai form, and naru is in the progressive form, natte-iru. Numbers 7 and 8 are very useful when expressing laws, regulations, schedules, as well as appointments that have yet to occur. In the next slides, we will look at a few examples of each of these 8 patterns. In my examples, I put the Japanese translation under each word to facilitate your own translation, and I assume you already know how to use Japanese particles. The first pattern is ru koto ni suru. I decide to do. Our sentence, I decided to eat sushi for dinner. We nominalize eat sushi for dinner. And in Japanese, boku wa bangohan ni sushi wo taberu koto ni shita. And here's what we nominalized. Boku wa bangohan ni sushi wo taberu. I'm also using the plain form here. Koto ni shita. You can also use the formal style if you want. Boku wa bangohan ni sushi wo taberu koto ni shimashita. I decided to study Japanese in university. We nominalize to study Japanese in university. Translation. Watashi wa daigaku de nihongo wo benkyou suru koto ni shimashita. And here's what we nominalized. Watashi wa daigaku de nihongo wo benkyou suru. And I'm using the formal style. Koto ni shimashita. You can also use the plain style. Watashi wa daigaku de nihongo wo benkyou suru koto ni shita. Last example for the first pattern. Let's decide to buy a new car. We nominalize this, to buy a new car. In Japanese, 新しい車を買うことにしましょう。新しい車を買うことにしましょう。Here, we conjugate the ending suru to shimashou to express let's, turning the whole sentence into an invitation. You can review how to make invitations using the mashou conjugation in lesson 34. Next structure is nai koto ni suru. I decided not to watch TV today. We nominalize not to watch TV today. In Japanese, boku wa kyou terebi o minai koto ni shita. Boku wa kyou terebi o minai koto ni shita. And this is what we nominalized. Boku wa kyou terebi o minai. I decided not to go to the party. We nominalize not to go to the party. In Japanese, watashi wa party e ikanai koto ni shimashita. Watashi wa party e ikanai koto ni shimashita. I decided not to tell her my secret. We nominalize not to tell her my secret. In Japanese, boku no himitsu wo kanojo ni iwanai koto ni shita. Boku no himitsu wo kanojo ni iwanai koto ni shita. I omitted watashi wa here because it's understood. Watashi wa is always the default of the speaker. Next structure is ru koto ni shite-iru, and we use this to express personal resolutions, like New Year's resolutions. Our sentence, I decided to exercise every day, and we nominalize to exercise every day. In Japanese, 毎日運動することにしています。毎日運動することにしています。Again, I omit saying watashi wa because it's understood that I'm talking about myself. Another example, I decided as a rule to wash my hands before I eat. Maybe I didn't used to do this before. So we nominalize to wash my hands before I eat. In Japanese, 食べる前に手を洗うことにしています。食べる前に手を洗うことにしています。The ru-mai-ni conjugation expresses before doing, and you can review this in lesson 35. Last example for this structure, I decided as a rule to watch the local news every evening. We nominalize to watch the local news every evening. In Japanese, 毎晩地元のニュース番組を見ることにしている。毎晩地元のニュース番組を見ることにしている。Next pattern is ないことにしている。This expresses personal resolutions that from now on you won't do something. Our sentence, I decided as a rule to no longer drink alcohol. We nominalize to not drink alcohol. In Japanese, お酒を飲まないことにしている。お酒を飲まないことにしている。Next example, I decided as a rule to not buy expensive clothes. Yeah, especially when people now work from home, there's no need to buy expensive clothes for the office. We nominalize to not buy expensive clothes. In Japanese, 高い服を買わないことにしています。高い服を買わないことにしています。Last example, I decided as a rule to not tell a lie. To tell a lie is a set phrase, 嘘をつく, and we nominalize this to not tell a lie. In Japanese, 嘘をつかないことにしています。嘘をつかないことにしています。Next pattern is ることになる. It will be decided that. Our sentence, it's been decided that I'll enter university next year. We nominalize I'll enter university next year. In Japanese, 僕は来年大学に入ることになりました。僕は来年大学に入ることになりました。The sentence structure implies that another person made a decision for me, perhaps my parents, or I use the structure to sound humble, to downplay, say, the fact that my parents are paying for my university education, or that I got a scholarship, or that I passed the university entrance exams, as opposed to my listener whose parents probably can't fund their education, or they have to work part-time to pay for university. So, ことになりました makes the person sound humble. Next example, it's been decided that I'll go home to Japan next month. We nominalize I'll go home to Japan next month. In Japanese, 来月日本に帰ることになりました。来月日本に帰ることになりました。Again, ることになる implies that somebody else made the decision for me. Perhaps my parents who paid for the plane ticket. Another example, it's been decided that Miss Tanaka will bring sushi to the party. We nominalize Miss Tanaka will bring sushi to the party. In this example, the subject or topic is another person and not the speaker. Translation, 田中さんはパーティーに寿司を持ってくることになった。田中さんはパーティーに寿司を持ってくることになった。 The structure implies that it wasn't Miss Tanaka's decision to bring sushi to the party. Perhaps it was a group decision, or it was assigned to her by the boss, or that's what she picked in a lottery. Next structure is nai koto ni naru. It's been decided not to do. The sentence, it's been decided that no one will use the car today. We nominalize no one will use the car today. Translation, 今日誰も車を使わないことになりました。今日誰も車を使わないことになりました。It's been decided that we won't sell the house anymore. We nominalize we won't sell the house anymore. Translation, 私たちはもう家を売らないことになりました。私たちはもう家を売らないことになりました。Of course, the speaker has control over whether to sell his house or not, so I don't see any other reason to use this structure other than to sound humble. Maybe I'm backing out of an offer to sell the house and I'm telling the buyer this in an indirect way so I don't hurt his feelings that I'm no longer selling my house to him. Last example, it's been decided that the children won't play outside because of the rain. We nominalize the children won't play outside because of the rain. In Japanese, 雨で子供たちは外で遊ばないことになった。雨で子供たちは外で遊ばないことになった。Next conjugation is ることになっている. Remember that this structure is used to express rules, laws, and regulations. It's not mentioned who imposes these rules, but usually it's the government or some authority. That's obvious. So for example, this sentence, it's been decided as a rule that cars run on the left side of the road in Japan. We nominalize cars run on the left side of the road in Japan. In Japanese, 日本では車は道の左側を走ることになっている。日本では車は道の左側を走ることになっている。Another example, it's been decided as a rule that everyone wears a mask to prevent COVID infection. We nominalize everyone wears a mask to prevent COVID infection. Our translation, コロナウイルスの感染を防ぐため、みんなはマスクをかけることになっている。コロナウイルスの感染を防ぐため、みんなはマスクをかけることになっている。The pseudonoun ため indicates purpose, in order to. You can review the use of ために in lesson 67. It's been decided as a rule that ordinary workers work from Monday to Friday. We nominalize ordinary workers work from Monday to Friday. In Japanese, 一般の労働者は月曜日から金曜日まで仕事することになっています。一般の労働者は月曜日から金曜日まで仕事することになっています。The 5-day work week is a result of work by the labor unions. Before this, workers worked 7 days a week, no vacation. Last example for this conjugation, it's been decided that Air Canada flies to Japan 5 times a week. And this is what we nominalize. This example illustrates a schedule, or much like an appointment. In Japanese, Air Canada は週に5回日本へ出発することになっています。Air Canada は週に5回日本へ出発することになっています。Our last structure is ないことになっている. It's been decided as a rule not to do. Our sentence, it's been decided as a rule that minors cannot drink alcohol. And we nominalize minors can't drink alcohol. In Japanese, 未成年者はお酒を飲めないことになっている。未成年者は お酒を飲めないことになっている. Nomenai is the shortcut ability conjugation of nomanai, and you can review the ability conjugation in lesson 57. It's been decided as a rule that grandma doesn't eat much sweets due to her diabetes. We nominalize grandma doesn't eat much sweets due to diabetes. In Japanese, 糖尿病でおばあさんは甘いものを食べないことになっています。糖尿病でおばあさんは甘いものを食べないことになっています. Our last example, it's been decided as a rule to not cut the surrounding trees to protect nature. We nominalize this whole thing, to not cut the surrounding trees to protect nature. In Japanese, 自然を守るために周りの木を切らないことになっている。自然を守るために周りの木を切らないことになっている. To summarize, in this lesson we learned how to express decisions using two main conjugations. ることにする, meaning I decide to do so and so, and ることになる, which means it will be decided to do so and so. Often, these are used in the past tense. After all, decisions are made in the past. ることにした and ることになった. ることにする has three more variations. The first is, I decide not to do, and the structure is ないことにする. I decided as a rule to do. ることにしている. We use the している or the progressive tense to denote it's an ongoing situation. And the last structure is, I decide as a rule not to do. ないことにしている. Numbers 3 and 4 are useful in expressing personal resolutions and new habits. And the second pattern, ることになる, also has three variations. It'll be decided not to do. ないことになる. It'll be decided as a rule to do. ることになっている. Again, we use the progressive tense to denote an ongoing situation. And the last variation is, it'll be decided as a rule not to do. ないことになっている. Numbers 7 and 8 are used to express laws, regulations, schedules, and appointments. And this ends our lesson on expressing decisions, ることにする and ることになる. お疲れ様でした. If you're serious about becoming fluent in Japanese, it's important to practice daily, learn grammar, and build up vocabulary. My whole course is designed to give you a strong basic foundation in the Japanese language that you can build solidly upon. So please click like, share, or subscribe and watch the next video in the series. 日本語の勉強に頑張ってください。じゃあ、またね。